Have you ever wanted to start a podcast and just didn't know where to go to get your journey started? Well, look no further than Anchor Podcasting. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast, and it gives you everything you need for free in one spot, which you can use right from your computer or a mobile device if you need to record on the go. Creation tools allow you to edit and record your podcast to make it sound the best possible way for your audience and listeners. And they'll also distribute your podcast for you, so you don't have to go through the hassle of talking to different platforms in order to get your podcast through to everybody you wish. This includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. You can easily make money through Anchor Podcasting, and it doesn't require minimum listenership. So once you get started and set up, money can flow in from all directions. So if you're ready to get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.fm to get your ball rolling and start your podcast journey. All right, guys, we're back for the second part of the Double Trouble Breakdown number 8 on the Boston finisher, Calvin Kattar. We covered the Andre Fili fight in the first episode. I know 24 minutes on one fight. It's kind of like, dude, that's longer than the entire fight. But that sets the foundation for this breakdown and just how much of his game relies on what he did in that fight. So the second fight we're going to cover was Calvin Kattar versus Shane Burgos on January 20th, 2018 at UFC 220. At this time, both these guys were bright prospects in the division. Now, at this point in time, they're both top contenders. Shane Burgos is coming off that huge win over Makwan Amirkhani via third-round TKO at UFC 244 this past weekend. And Calvin Kattar handed Shane Burgos his first and only professional defeat. And Shane Burgos has looked good ever since then, defeating guys like Cub Swanson and Makwan Amirkhani. So it just goes to show you how good Calvin Kattar is to win this fight and to get the finish at the same time. So let's start this out. Right at the beginning of the first round, Shane Burgos came out and was immediately throwing his jab. You know, Shane Burgos is a big box. He throws his kicks, but he's more of a boxer. He likes to slip, pop that jab, right hand, move, throw his shots out there, slip, roll, counter, and then counter off what you throw. So Burgos came out right away in the first round and threw jabs. Just pop, pop, pop. This is so he can gauge the distance and get closer, close the range, and land on Calvin Kattar. But Kattar's just keeping his hands up high. Like I said, he likes to keep his hands above his eyes, and he's just gauging the distance. He's moving in and out of range. He's slipping the jabs of Shane Burgos. He's covering up, and he's moving in and out. Kattar landed an inside low kick and then switched to southpaw quickly. This was to get Shane Burgos to realize that I'm going to be fighting from both stances, and I'm going to be able to hit you with that left hand with power and the right hand as well. Kattar threw an overhand right into a lead uppercut. It doesn't land, but it shows that he's going to be looking to close the distance with that uppercut and possibly throw a lead uppercut to a right hand or an overhand right to a lead uppercut. And the uppercut is very important in this fight, and you'll see as we get through more exchanges. Calvin Kattar, like I said, he's just making reads. Shane likes to lean in a little as he moves forward. His head's low, but his chin is not always 100% down. He likes to, like I said, cover with that shoulder on the left side and then guard up on the other side, a shoulder roll. So a shoulder roll, you're going to cover the chin with the lead shoulder. The punch is going to roll off the shoulder. And then if they decide to come around the other side with like a lead hook or something, then you could cover up with a traditional guard on the opposite side. Kattar lands that fencing jab again. They were both firing jabs at the beginning of this fight and in the first round in general, but Kattar was able to gauge that distance a little bit more than Burgos as the first round continued and just pop that jab. Just boom, bop, 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 and keep landing right on the nose of Shane Burgos. Burgos fires his own jab to counter the jab of Kattar, but Kattar pulls back and fires the right hand. So this is a pull counter. For people who aren't, that big into martial arts and don't really know what a pull counter is, it's when an opponent throws a shot at you, you're gonna lean back and put the weight on your rear foot and then push off your rear foot and counter with that power hand. So you're gonna slip and counter. So you pull back, their shot misses. They're open after they throw the shot, and you counter with that right hand or left hand if you're in a southpaw. So Burgos fires the jab, but Kattar pulls back and fires the right hand with a pull counter and lands flush on the chin of Burgos. And he likes to use that rear hand again, like we said earlier. He likes to use that rear hand to measure the distance and gauge how close the opponent is to him. So he'll touch the hand, he'll touch the lead hand, and he'll back up. He'll touch the lead hand and throw a left hook. He'll touch the lead hand and pop the jab just to see where you're at so he can keep you at the range he wants to keep you at without you being able to get in too close and close the distance off. As we move further into this fight, Burgos was able to close off the distance, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Burgos, again, he kept trying to fire that jab because Burgos is a really good boxer, but Calvin Kattar was beating him to the punch with the jab as the first round continued. He would double and triple up the jab as the fight kept going. Pop, 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 pop. Just to make sure that Burgos could never get into a rhythm and he couldn't close the distance because he'd keep getting popped with that jab as he moved in. Pop, 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 pop. Let's see. As Burgos tries to close the distance, obviously he was throwing a lot of jabs, Kattar was. And then Kattar switches it up and throws the jab and a cross, and it lands flush on the jaw of Shane Burgos, but he takes it well. He doesn't really stumble too much. One thing I noticed as I was watching a lot of these fights is that Calvin Kattar, I said it earlier too, he'd switch from orthodox to southpaw as he was circling closer to the fence. So whenever the opponent was able to push Kattar back, he would square up his stance and switch to a southpaw stance from his traditional orthodox stance so that the power could be in the left hand, previously in the right hand, and he would be able to put as much power in it possible because his stance was square. You don't want a square stance when you're fighting like wrestlers, so if he tries to use this against Zabit Magomedsharipov tomorrow, or if it already happened, we'll know the results, but you don't want to use this against a wrestler because when your stance is squared and you don't have a dominant leg in front, it's easier to take you down because your hips are right there and you can't get your hips back that easily. Kattar throws the uppercut to a lead hook as Burgos tries to close the distance. Again, he's aware of the range and the distance, and he's aware of what to throw as you try to come in. Burgos, obviously, he keeps his head low, so Kattar was making the reads knowing that the uppercut would probably be there a lot because Burgos would try to like change levels as he moved in to gauge the distance, which would make him closer to the ground, so the uppercut would have more power and better opportunity to land. Kattar throws a jab and then follows it up with a long hook to a cross, and it lands on Burgos. This lands perfectly, and we said this earlier. He likes to use this a lot. So he threw the jab, threw that lead hook to that right hand. Bop, bop, bop. And this landed right on Burgos, and then Burgos tried to come back in immediately to counter, and Kattar popped that jab. So when you throw the jab, hook, cross, the opponent's either going to back up or come in. But Kattar was aware that Burgos was probably going to try to come in and close the distance after that, so he popped that jab, which kept Shane Burgos at a further distance than Burgos wanted to be, and it stopped him from being able to close the distance. It was more of just like a shock to keep him away. Okay, bye, bye. So boom, boom, boom. Okay, bye, see you later. Boom, boom, get away from me. And that's kind of what he did in this fight. Kattar throws a jab. Oh, no, okay, I already covered that. So let's move forward. What are we at? Like I said, Calvin is constantly switching to southpaw to throw the lead right uppercut. He never really threw uppercuts when he was in a conventional stance, but he would switch to southpaw to throw a lead uppercut and then follow up with an overhand left. This is kind of a combo that Conor McGregor likes to use. He'll throw that lead like up jab to the lead uppercut to counter with the left hand. Kattar doesn't do it exactly the same way because he throws more of a traditional uppercut than a long, like jab-like uppercut. But it's the same principle basically. It's to show that I could switch stances. You don't know what stance I'm going to come at you from in these fights, and I hope you're ready to deal with it all. And Burgos was not ready for this, I don't believe, but he did come on later on in the fight and show how good he was. Kattar lands the jabs at will again. The jab is his best strike. The jab and the cross are Calvin Kattar's best shots because he's just so crisp and so clean, and there's no fat in his movements. It's just pop, 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 pop. And he's just a clean, crisp boxer. And you saw that in this fight. Calvin switched stance and landed the lead right hook and then went back to orthodox. So as he moved forward, he switched to southpaw through the lead right hook. Burgos probably thought he was going to stay in southpaw, so he was going to move forward, and then Calvin just switched back to orthodox conventional stance. Again, he'll switch, throw the shot, and go back. So you don't know where he's coming from. This is very smart, and it just shows how technically aware that Calvin Kattar is. Now we move on to the second round in this fight. Kattar, again, is just popping that jab at will. Burgos, again, faking the level changes and lowering his level to try and avoid the jab of Calvin Kattar, but it's going to leave him susceptible to the uppercuts from the lead and the rear hand of Calvin Kattar, which were landing well in the first round. Kattar switches the jab to a hook, seeing that Burgos likes to slip to the outside of the jab. You'll see this as we cover more of Calvin Kattar as well. So as Calvin throws the jab, Burgos would slip to the outside and not slip to the inside. Because, you know, it's kind of hard. It's a double-edged sword. If you slip to the outside, you can counter with your power hand, but the opponent can also switch into a hook if you slip to the outside. But if you slip to the inside of the jab, you can work the body shots. And we saw that Shane Burgos did this a lot as the fight moved on. So since Kattar saw that Burgos slipped to the outside of his jab, he switched the jab to a hook right after he threw the first jab. So he threw a jab, saw that Burgos slipped to the outside, then he faked the jab and came around with the left hook, which would catch Burgos on the jaw because he slipped to the outside. Now you're covering more distance and more range with that hook. You're able to hit a wider target because you're coming from a wider like area, and boom. So he slipped the jab, counter with that left hook, pop. Shane Burgos on the jaw. He was getting the boxing range down clean in this fight. Kattar went for a takedown just to push Burgos up against the fence, but Burgos was able to stuff it. But this, again, it's getting Shane Burgos to think, okay, he's beating me in the striking for this fight, but now he's going to shoot for a takedown. What am I going to do? I'm changing my levels constantly to try to avoid his striking. And it could help me with the takedown, but I could also get taken down. So what do I do? And it was just overloading the brain of Shane Burgos. As Calvin kept throwing that jab in the second round, Burgos was able to make the read, and he slipped to the inside. Like I said, what did I say earlier? You could slip to the outside, but you're susceptible to the hook. If you slip to the inside, you are possibly susceptible to getting hit with the power hand, but you can also work shots to the body, and that's what Burgos did. He tried to slip to the inside of the jab and counter with the left hook to the liver. So he'd slip to the inside, boom, boom, slip to the inside, bop, hit that left hook to the liver. When Calvin Kattar switches southpaw, he does primarily two different attacks. He'll either throw a front snap kick off the left leg as he switches to southpaw, or he'll throw that cross to the lead right uppercut. We talked about the uppercuts earlier, but he also likes to throw that front kick up the middle to catch you off guard if you try to lower your level or when you try to come in to close the distance. Again, distance management, awareness. This is what Calvin Kattar is so good at, and I hope I'm explaining this to you well enough. And then as it got closer to the end of the round, like I said, Burgos was making the read and slipping to the inside and ripping hooks to the body. Pop, 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 pop. And he was doing this more and more in the second round. And the jabs were working well for Shane Burgos because of this. And Burgos probably won the second round just based on the body work alone. He really closed the gap and worked the body in the second round. Ugh, it was gross. Okay, third round. Final round of the fight. Calvin Kattar leaned in with the right hand and popped it. He usually would fake throw the jab first. He wouldn't just come in and throw the right hand. But since Burgos was making the read on the jab, he decided to skip the jab, not throw it, and fire the right hand. Boom, bop, boom, bop. And it just landed right on Shane Burgos. And Burgos is like, okay, now he can either throw the right hand by itself or he can throw the jab, which would follow up into the right hand. Again, Calvin Kattar's making reads. He's understanding what you're seeing from him. He knows that Burgos is going to try to slip to the inside of the jab and counter with shots to the body, so he doesn't throw the jab and instead just goes right for the right hand. Kattar just fakes on the inside. Bop, fakes in and out, gauging the distance. Kattar commits to the 1-2. Bop, bop. Burgos rolls the jab of Calvin Kattar, but then he moves right into the cross. Boom. Catches Shane Burgos right on the jaw. So he was faking and feinting. Okay, he's not going to throw the jab. He's going to just throw the cross right away because that's what he did to open up the round. Nope. Jab. Burgos shoulder rolled it. The cross. He moved right into the cross. Bop. This hurt him. Burgos moved forward because he stumbled from the shot. Kattar landed a right uppercut, which cracked him in the jaw, basically knocked him out on his feet. But Burgos stayed on his feet, moved forward. And as Burgos moved forward, Calvin Kattar just backed up, landed the right uppercut, or landed a cross hook to a right uppercut, dropped Burgos like a sack of potatoes, and got the TKO in the third round to hand Shane Burgos his first defeat in professional mixed martial arts. This was a big win, and it just showed how much upside that Calvin Kattar has and how good he really is. His next fight after this was against Renato Moicano, and I didn't really want to break this down. Obviously, this was Calvin Kattar's first loss in the UFC. He lost via unanimous decision, and the key in this fight for Renato Moicano was the leg kicks. Right away, he was eating up the lead leg of Calvin Kattar, and since he's a boxer and is traditionally heavy on that lead leg, he doesn't keep his lead leg light and move around too much with footwork. So Renato Moicano made the reads and just attacked the lead leg. This took the power out of the shots of Calvin Kattar because you're not able to push off and plant on that feet and land with the power because your legs are dead. You know, you're taking the power out of the shots by attacking the legs, and he lost this fight. But he came back very well in the next fight against Chris Fishgold on October 27th, 2018. The fight at UFC 223 was on April 7th, 2018. So the first fight, obviously, for this October 27th fight against Chris Fishgold, in the first round, Fishgold moves forward immediately and tries to close the distance. Fishgold came into this fight 17-1. Burgos came in, Calvin Kattar came in, I believe, 18-3. I'm pretty sure he came into this fight 18-3 because he came off the loss to Renato Moicano. But right away, Fishgold moves forward with strikes. This is to push Calvin Kattar back and close the distance and get him up against the fence. Kattar is reaching forward with the rear hand to gauge the distance and measure. Like we said, Kattar is a professional. He likes to know how close you are to him so he can pull back and counter, land his jab at will to keep you at the distance he wants, and then throw his power shots off of that. As Fishgold pushes him forward, he shoots a double leg and turns the corner. So a double leg takedown, usually you could push forward and just bum rush forward, take the legs and take them down. But good wrestlers will shoot in straight, and then as they get your legs and get under your hips, they're going to turn the corner and pull you towards the direction that they hold on. It's hard to explain it because I'm looking at it in my head. I could see it perfectly, but they'll shoot a takedown and then they'll turn you as they're shooting to pull you down and push you at the same time. So they're pushing you with the takedown in the shoulder, and then they're pulling your legs out to get the takedown and turning the corner. That's what Fishgold did, and he got Kattar down. But right away, Calvin Kattar scoots his back to the fence. He gets his back to the fence so that he can push. He has a barrier against him, and he can walk his way up the fence with his back. This is a big thing in MMA. If you get taken down up against the fence, you're immediately going to try to get your back to the fence so you can push up and get back up to your feet. This is exactly what Kattar did. And he used the right overhook on the arm of I'm saying a lot, guys. Sorry, we're talking about a lot on this podcast. So he shoots the double leg, and he uses the right overhook, and he uses it to stand up. Fishgold attacks a guillotine choke as Calvin Kattar tries to stand up, but Calvin Kattar immediately fights the hands. Whenever somebody goes for a choke, you have to fight the hands immediately. Don't try to cover your neck and everything. Obviously, that's important to keep your chin down so they can't get under your chin and get the choke, but you got to fight the hands right away. If they don't have the hands to choke you, the choke isn't there. So that's what Kattar did. He used that overhook, stood up with it. Fishgold tried to get a guillotine with Kattar's back to the fence. Kattar grabbed the hands, fought off, used it to circle and get away from the fence. Fishgold again pushes forward and tries to just take Kattar down against the fence again. Kattar again uses the left overhooker, the whizzer, on the one side to stop him from being able to get the underhook. And then the overhook on an opponent stops them from getting an underhook on you. I've talked about underhooks and overhooks previously on the podcast. You want to get your arms underneath your opponent's armpits and or around their waist and lock them so you can get the takedown. But an overhook on one side defeats the underhook of the opponent, so now you're in control of their arm instead of them being under your arm and in control of you. So by overhooking or whizzering, you're controlling their one side, and then with the other side, you could push your hand in between you and them and get the underhook, and then you're going to rotate towards the overhook side to get more distance and be in control of the opponent. Again, it's a game of chess, and you have to know the moves of your opponent and know the counters to stop them. Kattar digs for the underhook, like I said, and circles towards the right to get out of the clinch and get off the fence. Then right when they're back to the center, Kattar fakes the jab to get a reaction from Fishgold. Just boom, to get him to react. How's he going to react? And he was getting reactions right away. He throw the jab because the jab was landing at will again for Calvin Kattar. If you're in a fight with Calvin Kattar, you're going to get jabbed, and it's going to suck. And if he's able to establish the jab, usually he can establish that right hand and put you to bed. But he's faking the jab, and Fishgold's reacting. He's drawn out. He's faking that right hand to throw it, and then he sees that Kattar's not going to throw, so he pulls back. Now he sees what your defensive patterns are. If I fake, are you going to counter? If I fake a shot and I throw, are you going to parry it? Are you going to block? Are you going to move out the way? So this is exactly what Kattar was doing. So Kattar throws the jab, and Fishgold steps into range, and Kattar immediately throws the overhand right. It almost catches Fishgold because Fishgold was going to try to close the distance, but he gets just out of the way. But this shows, hey, you can't close the distance on me because I'll land this right hand and I'll knock you the fuck out. Excuse my language, but that's what it's showing. I'm going to knock you out if I land this overhand right. Bop. So don't try to close the distance because if you come into range, I'm going to throw this overhand now. You were expecting the jab the whole time. Now I'm going to throw the overhand. Kattar tries to step into range again after he throws this right hand with a 1-2 with a jab cross. It doesn't land, but it gets close. He's gauging the distance more and more. Kattar then circles to his right to avoid the power right hand of Chris Fishgold. So if you circle away from the opponent's power towards your right side, it's going to make it harder for them to land the power, and they're going to have to work more out their lead hand, and that's what Kattar did. He shut down the power of Chris Fishgold because it was working for him in the beginning, so he had to make adjustments and shut it down as the fight kept going. What do we got next? As Kattar pushes Fishgold up against the fence, which is kind of, interesting because Fishgold was the one pushing Kattar back to the fence throughout the entire fight. Kattar throws a flying knee, a switch flying knee, where you jump up with the back leg and then switch to the front leg to land the knee. It doesn't land, but it shows that you can't close range. You thought you were going to close range on my jab. I almost hit you with the overhand right. Now you thought you were going to close range again, and I'm going to throw a flying knee. You can't duck down to take me down because I'll knee you as you're coming down, and you can't close the distance on me because I got the right hand ready to take you out. So he's shutting down the game of Chris Fishgold more and more as the fight carries on. Fishgold keeps slipping to the outside of the jab as the fight continues. As we talked about earlier, you have to watch out for the cross as you slip to the outside of an opponent's jab. Or you have to watch out for the lead hook as you slip to the outside because the opponent can fake and counter.